So as I said, my name is Kerry Garrison with Multicopter Warehouse. I'm the Vice President and the head of the Enterprise Sales Department here. And we have the new M300, and I'm very, very excited about it. So again, if you have questions, put them in the questions box, and I'll answer them as I can. I'll try not to get too off topic while we're moving along. But the M300 is a fantastic machine. I'm very, very impressed with it so far. And today I really want to talk about public safety. It's kind of my favorite piece of the industry. You know, we do construction and mapping and everything else, but public safety is what gets me up in the morning, and just love working with you guys out there and building your programs. And the emails I get from people about how, hey, that machine you sold us, you know, last week saved 12 lives last night. I mean, it's just amazing for me to hear stories like that. So always appreciate you guys telling me what's going on out there. So what are some typical UAS missions for drones? You know, looking for lost persons, stranded hikers. That's really big here in Colorado, especially in our mountainous regions where we have hikers and skiers and snowshoers and you name it out there that get lost on a daily basis. And the mountain rescue crews are very, very busy all the time out there looking for people. And then even in our lower, flatter areas, we still have rescue missions out there. People go hiking and they get turned around. So these are fantastic products for that. Disaster reconnaissance, that's a fantastic opportunity to map your ingress and egress points, figure out what's going on, what roads are open, how much damage has been occurred. Fire monitoring, fire investigation, those types of applications are extremely valuable. And Rick with us from Castle Rock Fire Department, they do even more than just the emergency responses. There was a huge construction project there in town a while back, and he would fly it every day and then distribute those images to everybody that needed it, the construction companies, the EMS, the fire, the police, everybody, so that they knew if there was a problem, how do you need to get in and out of that construction site? Because it was very big and it changed quite often on how to get in and out of that. And so not just for emergencies, but for civil duty as well. So it was a really great opportunity for them to show the rest of the city what their UAS technology could do. Some of the more popular add-ons that we sell and have had out there in the past are drop systems. I haven't figured out exactly how I'm going to do one on the 300 yet. There's no I/O ports for me to plug into, so we might have to do a separate transmitter type system to do a drop system on a 300. The forward-looking infrared cameras, also thermal or infrared or whatever you want to call them, being able to spot that body heat out there, extremely popular, highly useful products. High intensity lighting, such as the Winglands Z15 gimbaled spotlight that tracks along with the camera. Fantastic about lighting up an area. And on this 200 system there, you can see the upcoming megaphone platform that's going to be great for public address systems, emergency situations, yelling at people for their lack of social distancing, or, those different things that you might want to do with your system. We also have methane detectors, gas detectors, all kinds of different payloads coming out. There's a new oblique camera coming out that's specific for photogrammetry that will greatly increase the accuracy and resolution. It has basically 5 cameras on it, one pointing straight down and 4 at different angles to capture what is, in essence, a 120 megapixel image every time. So the resolution and quality of photogrammetry is going to greatly improve here fairly soon. That's a camera that'll be out probably sometime in Q4. So we're looking forward to seeing other payloads such as that come out. But the H20 that we're going to talk about today, man, it's a hell of a machine already. Let's talk about the Matrice 300 RTK. Now, there is only one model, and that is the RTK model. With the 200, we had the 200, the 210, and the 210 RTK. With the 300, we just have the RTK. And if you don't need the RTK capability, then you just don't buy a base station, which saves you $4,000 if you don't need that. And you're only going to need that if you're doing high precision mapping or you're flying around steel structures like bridges or electromagnetic interference areas. Otherwise, you really don't need the base station. It's not going to get you anything for your day-to-day operations. But it is built into the aircraft, and you only need an external source if you decide you want to utilize the RTK system. That is a dual band operation, so it can operate on either 2.8 or 2.4 or 5.8 or both. So it can actually operate dual band and switch between them as necessary. And some of you guys who have had experience with some of the police robots found that you couldn't operate on one frequency or the other because there was interference with the ground robots, and it caused some problems out there. But the Matrice 300 RTK actually supporting dual band or locking it to one of the two frequencies is really going to get away from that. Flight time, I mean, if you look at the specs, they'll say like 55 minutes. I'm going to say 40 plus because it really depends on the payload. And we'll actually look at a chart here in a moment that really goes into more detail about the actual flight time. The wind resistance is rated at 33 miles per hour. And I haven't had an opportunity to fly it in 33 mile an hour winds yet, but I have flown it in upwards of 25 mile an hour winds. And the thing is just incredibly stable. It just really performs extremely well. Very impressed with it. The ingress rating is IP45, so it can fly in a light rain. And same with the camera system. The H20 camera is also rated at IP45. The only problem there is, should you be flying in the rain, you get water on the lens, and well, there goes your imagery. So it can do it, but your issue is more getting any water droplets on the lens and not being able to see anything. Operating temperature is fantastic, from -4 degrees to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. So nice broad operating range. I'm sure our mountain rescue guys will be testing the lower limits of that out come wintertime around here and seeing just how good they get with it. I don't think it will just shut down or anything. None of the other aircraft do it, but probably below 4 degrees where we're going to see the issue is in reduced flight time because of the batteries. That's what I kind of think would be the main problem. And again, I'll put that to the test when we have some really seriously cold weather, again, that I'm not looking forward to anytime soon. The obstacle avoidance sensing, oops, my bad. Here we go. The obstacle avoidance sensing can work up to 130 feet. Absolutely incredible obstacle avoidance on this thing. Should never have a problem with it. And that's one of the reasons why the props have been flipped over so that they're further away from those sensors, giving those sensors a good, clear view around it, enabling them to increase the operating range of those sensors. Now, granted, there are some blind spots because there's not more sensors, but those blind spots are basically right off each of the arms. So, and you see that on the screen. When you're looking at the heads-up display on the screen, you'll see where those blind spots are, so you know where you need to be more cautious of. It takes about 70 minutes to charge a pair of batteries, then that's up to 100%. Most of the time, most of us aren't taking the batteries super low. We're landing, pretty safe at 20 to 30%. So you're looking more around an hour of time to charge the batteries, which is not bad at all. And not that any of us can really do it, but the operating range is upwards of 9 miles now. So that's pretty crazy. That's the new OcuSync Enterprise system that enables that. So that is not compatible with anything else. So the old Sentences, the old Smart Controller, any of the other remote controls are not going to work. It only works with the new Matrice 300 Enterprise Smart Controller, and we'll definitely get into that momentarily. Okay, let's look at the battery charger. Now, if you talk to different dealers, they'll sell you different packages in different ways. The only way we sell it is what's called the combo, which comes with the battery charger. And that's because this is the only way to charge batteries. So if someone is not selling you the battery station, then you have no way to charge the batteries. So we just sell the combo that comes standard with it. It can take 220 or 110 input, and at 220, the charge times are a little bit faster, but I figured most of us probably don't have 220 inverters with us or anything, so 110 is what I usually like to refer to, which is 70 minutes fully charging 2 of the TB60s, or 40 minutes charging from 20% to 90%. So if you're in a hurry to just churn and burn batteries, you can get them up to 90% in only about 40 minutes. It's that last 10% that takes the big chunk of time. The battery station itself can hold and charge 8 batteries at a time, as well as 4 of the WB37s, which are the Crystal Sky batteries, which are also used in the smart controller. So very handy platform for charging the batteries. Just for any of you guys' reference, if you need to be charging out in the field, this sucker does pull 1100 watts. So it takes quite an inverter or a generator to power this thing with 1100 watts being drawn on it. That's 1100 watts peak also, not constant. So it's more than I can do in my vehicle. I only have a, I guess, 600 watt right now. So I would have to do a big upgrade to be able to power this thing. But really cool. And when it's loaded with batteries, it's kind of loud. So something to be aware of too. Probably not a big deal, but just so you know that this thing can get pretty loud when it's getting heated up full of batteries. So I probably should have had this particular slide earlier. And this is the payload weight versus maximum flight time. And we can see, oh, God dang it, I was moving my mouse so I could give myself reference here. You can see with the H20T, we should be getting around 43 minutes of flight time on it. And now, of course, that's a lot of variables involved there with altitude, wind, temperature, humidity, all that air density stuff that can really make a difference when it comes to the operation of the aircraft. Maximum load, which is an additional 6 pounds, I believe it's rated at. If you were carrying a drop kit or a big sensor on there, yeah, you're going to drop down to about 31 minutes. But most of you are going to be running probably the H20T, so you can figure somewhere between 40 and 43 minutes loaded up with that guy. So that's about double what you would get with the Matrice 200. So really, really big improved flight times, huge for those type of operations where you just need to be in the air for, overwatch or search and rescue. The more time you're in the air, the better. And this guy absolutely performs extremely well. This is a quiet crowd, no questions yet. All right, let's talk about payloads. The Matrice 300 currently supports 4 different payloads. The H20, which is the hybrid sensor with the Langer rangefinder, the zoom camera, and the wide angle camera. And the H20T, which is the same as the H20, but also adds the 640 resolution thermal camera. It also supports the older XT2. So if you already have one and you're looking at adding this to your fleet, then you can use your existing XT2 without any issue. Same with the Zenmuse Z30, the 30 times optical zoom camera for your inspection work, which has also proven to be extremely useful in search and rescue missions, where the H20 series has the wide angle lens which you kind of get on the XT2, and it has the high power zoom lens from the Z30, as well as the thermal from the XT or the XT2, all in one package. So you don't need dual gimbals. You're saving on weight. You're saving on power, saving on a lot of different things that make it a much more complete and integrated platform. And I'm going to talk about how that camera works in a little bit. But next, I'm going to talk about the enterprise controller. If you've seen the DJI Smart Controller, it is very similar to that, except it has this extra base on the bottom, which is some battery power, and it has a port on the back for the WB37 battery. Now, it also has an internal battery. So you can charge the internal battery and use the WB37. So when that external battery gets too low, you can pop it out. The screen doesn't even turn off. You stay operational while you either go and charge that battery or grab a replacement and throw it on the back. So quite literally, with only one, maybe two batteries, there is no reason why you could not have absolute continuous flight without any power interruptions with the Enterprise Smart Controller. Oh, good question. How many megapixels is the Z30? That is it's really tiny. It's like 2.5 megapixels. It's extremely small versus the 12 megapixel on the H20. So the Z30 made up for the low pixel count by way of its really good optics. But with the H20, you're actually getting a 23 times optical zoom with a 12 megapixel sensor. Or I'm sorry, a 20 megapixel sensor on the zoom. It's a 12 megapixel on the wide angle. So the heads-up display on the smart controller, me and my wayward mouse clicks, has a new primary flight display, they call it the PFD, that integrates flight, navigation, and obstacle information for extremely good situational awareness. One thing that they've added here, which, God, I really hope I see on other aircraft, is there's actually a wind speed and direction indicator. So in the past, you've never really been able to know what are the wind conditions up above, which is going to help you determine, how far can I fly out before I really need to be able to have to turn back because of wind conditions, or, am I exceeding the capabilities of the aircraft by being in too high a wind? Well, this tells you right on the screen the wind speed and orientation or direction. It also will show you how to get back home. It's got a little diamond on there, kind of reminiscent of what we used to have on our Phantom 2s or FPV machines, that it's always really easy to find your home position. I'm sure most of us who have been flying have been in that situation where you just get disoriented and you got to really stop and think and try and figure out where the home point is. You're looking at the map to determine what direction the aircraft is pointed. This makes it so easy to go back and find your home point. So really, really big improvement on there, something I'm extremely excited about. The flight information, of course, the aircraft attitude, altitude, and velocity, and the wind speed I already talked about. They're very well presented on here. Now, one difference that I probably should have had a separate slide for is the FPV camera itself. On the Matrice 200 series, it had a gimbaled FPV camera. So as the aircraft was tilting around and buffeting in the wind, you really didn't see that on the FPV camera because it was stabilized. Well, that didn't really help you too much because it didn't give you any indication of any situation that the aircraft may be in due to high winds. So now it's a fixed FPV camera, but it has a wider angle. So you do see that. You do see the movement and the pitch and the roll of the aircraft in the screen, but it's also a wider angle, so it's not going to give you motion sickness looking at it. The other big improvement was on the Matrice 200 series or in the Inspire 2, that FPV camera would easily get washed out in bright light and make it very, very hard for the pilot to see what he was actually doing. And this FPV camera, I mean, I have flown basically right at the sun and no problems. It is crystal clear, no problems at all. Definitely makes me feel safer flying, that I can see little things like power poles and things that just would have been just washed out on the 200 series. So big improvement on the FPV camera as well. Is altitude, actual AGL, or based on the home point? You know, Steve, that's a great question, and you're going to love the answer. It's both. So you have an AGL readout, and you have your altitude from takeoff. So it actually displays both on the screen. The Enterprise Smart Controller also supports what we call advanced dual control. So you can have that in coaching mode or training mode. So one person can be flying and the other person can just take over should there be an issue. You can have it in the standard pilot payload operator role or pilot cameraman role. So very handy for that type of work. Or you can do pilot handoff. And what that means is the second controller can essentially be in a standby mode and just take over control of the aircraft. Now, this can be a safety backup thing. It could be, shift change without having to move change hands of the controller. Or it can also be used in what would normally be a beyond visual line of sight operation that wouldn't be possible, where now you can have one pilot cover a big area, but as it begins to get to the edge of their visual line of sight, another pilot can take over who's further away, take over that aircraft, and now he becomes the pilot in charge and has his visual line of sight range. And you can leapfrog, So imagine doing, hundreds of or even thousands of miles of pipeline inspection or power line inspection. It's a real pain to only be able to do, maybe 3 towers, have to stop, go reposition, fly back to the, one behind you, fly to the one in front of you, fly it back to you. And now you can do a line of them, have another pilot waiting ahead. He takes over, continues that operation as the first pilot, now leapfrogs and gets ahead of him. So this is a really big improvement on how some operations can work. Is there HDMI output on the controllers? Yes, there is. There is an HDMI output. So no concern there. And you can have that set to be the screen display or a clean video feed. Remove. Did I mention that? Yes. So I mentioned the WB37s are hot swappable, plus the internal battery for uninterrupted use. Got it. Okay, I'm good there. Okay, let's talk about the H20 camera systems. There's 2 models, the H20 and the H20T. So you have the 20 megapixel zoom camera, the 12 megapixel wide angle camera, the 1200 meter laser range finder. Not everyone's going to need that. And on the H20T, it adds the 640 by 512 radiometric thermal camera. So awesome package, all in one, very handy system to have, very intuitive to use too on the screen. It doesn't, to me, it's not confusing to use. You kind of go through it once and you're like, okay, I got this, no problem. Does the second controller link to the aircraft or to the primary controller? It links to the aircraft. So both of them are actually bound to the aircraft, not to each other. So it's not limited in range by the distance from controller to controller, it's controller to aircraft. Okay, some of the features of the H20. One is called Pinpoint, where you can mark an object in the camera or map view with just a tap, and some super advanced magic voodoo algorithms will calculate its coordinates, which anyone else who is watching, be that on the second controller or via something like Flight Hub, can see that icon and know where that pin was dropped. So very cool for search and rescue operations to have multiple people easily be able to see where a target is. Just an awesome tool. Works extremely well. The next one is called Smart Track. This is awesome for police operations, being able to identify and follow a moving subject like a person, a vehicle, or a boat, where the auto zoom is applied for tracking and viewing, and the subject's dynamic location is shared with the other remote controllers or with Flight Hub. I'm actually going to show you some footage I did with this. I'm gonna skip this. All right. So here's a shot down the street from us. Oh, why didn't it play? Come on. Okay. So I selected to track this vehicle, and you'll notice I'm not over the road. I'm actually over a green space. So no one freak out that I'm flying over moving vehicles. But the zoom is automatically changing to try and keep as much of the vehicle in frame as possible, and it will follow in both directions. When I demonstrated this for Arapahoe Sheriff, we actually tracked a car 1 mile in one direction to almost a mile in the opposite direction as it went by. Very impressive tool. Now, the camera does, when you record video or take pictures, it records from all of the cameras at the same time. So here is one shot with the wide angle view, the zoom view, and the thermal view. And you get all of those files. So you get 3 video files or 3 photo files from each of the cameras that are on there. So really great for post-analysis or, when you want to review, or if you're going through and looking at an area and you're kind of scanning through it with the wide, you can then pop over to the zoomed images and see that as well. So this was from about, I want to say it was 75 feet up, and middle of the day, super bright, extremely warm day, and you can still see how well the thermal camera worked in that situation. And then this shot that I just showed you was done with the wide angle. So since it records all 3 of them at the same time, I can then show you the zoomed version, if I can find my mouse here. So that's the zoomed version of the same shot. So you can see just how well it actually tracks. That's a great question, Connor. Would you still need a waiver for visual line of sight in the multiple pick switching control format? No, because at no time is it outside of the visual line of sight of the pilot, because you're switching pilots. Are these cameras compatible with the Inspire 1 or 2? No, neither are they compatible with the Matrice 200. The H20 series is only compatible with the M300. All right, let's continue our little car chase here. Oops, here we go. So there it is, following the vehicle. And as I said, it also works with the thermal. So there's the same tracking shot done with the thermal camera. Now this could be handy if you were looking for, people hiding in the back of that pickup truck or something. Those body heat would definitely stand out. So kind of cool to have all 3 available to you at any one time. Okay, well, that's kind of my overview of the the system there. If you guys have any questions, they have been coming in, so I'll try and get to them now. Is the Zenmuse X5S able to be used on the M300? Well, let's go back to here. The available payloads for the M300 are the H20, the H20T, the XT2, and the Z30. Now, I'll tell you why the X5S is not compatible. It's because the X5S does not have its own SD card slot. So the M300 does not either. The M300 requires the camera payload to have its own image processor and storage capability. And since the X5S or the X7 do not, they required the image processor on board the aircraft, then there's no way to use or store, save that footage from some of the other cameras that did not have their own internal storage. So that's a good way of looking at it. It's like, does the camera have an SD card slot? Okay, it'll probably work. Does it not? It's not going to work. Oh, the cost for an M300 with H20T, 8 batteries, 4 controller batteries, you're in the high 20s. You're, a totally decked out system with everything. You're going to be in around the $26,000 to $28,000 range. Email me. You can either do it at kgarrison@multicopterwarehouse.com or enterprise@multicopterwarehouse.com. We do divide up by territories. So as I get the emails, if make sure you tell me where you're located, and I'll put you in touch with the right sales rep to work with you. But we're happy to get you quotes out as quickly as possible, and we are doing our damnedest to keep these in stock. So if it's something you want to move on very quickly, which most agencies can't, just because of politics, but if it's something that you can move quickly on, then we are trying to get them out basically the next day. We do go an extra step above pretty much any other dealer out there. When you place that order and it's ready to ship, we contact you. We make sure we have the DJI credentials for you so that we activate it under your account so that the warranty is in your name. We do all the firmware updates, because right now the firmware update process initially is a pain in the butt. And if you don't go through very specific steps, it will get hung up. And so we do that. We test it. We do everything. We make sure that when you get that machine, all you need to do is charge the batteries and it's ready to fly. So we update the battery control, the battery station, all the batteries, the aircraft, the remote control, everything is absolutely current when it leaves our facility, to make sure that you guys do not have to deal with those type of issues when you get it. You get it ready to fly. So I think our value add is the way we take care of our customers on this machine. We do not want anyone to go through the hassles that we have to go through to get these things working. Okay. I think I answered this. Availability, yeah, I pretty much have these in stock. I might have moved the last one that I had today, but I already have more en route. So, or I may have one left today, something like that. So I'm doing the absolute best I can to make sure I have units in stock. Are you offering GSA pricing? Contact me. We'll see what we can do. Really, DJI's policy is dealers cannot discount these products. It's kind of like map pricing, if you've heard of that. It's actually called RRP. That's what we have to sell these things for. And they're even moving to enforcing that by requiring us to send them our final invoices to prove that we didn't discount them. Otherwise, we could lose our dealership status. So shopping around really isn't going to get you much unless somebody is just being completely a bad dealer and breaking all kinds of rules that they've already agreed to. Every quote should basically be the same. Where I discount things as much as I can is on third-party products, landing pads, memory cards, those types of things. So I do what I can there. Also, I probably should have had a slide for this. There's a new program called DJI Enterprise Maintenance, and there's 3 different levels of that. Most people are getting the standard, which is kind of the medium, which it gets you 1 maintenance cycle, which is recommended at about a year or less, depending on your flight times, about 400 hours. And you send the machine in, it gets complete deep cleaning, everything is upgraded, everything is calibrated. Any of the commonly worn components are replaced. That's a little vague, I understand, but there's certain things. If there's nicks and things in the props and stuff like that, they just replace it, and then they send it back with a maintenance log. So for those of you who have to be way more anal about your maintenance logs, this is a manufacturer certified maintenance program, and the standard package is I'd have to look up the price. It's like $560, and then it's I think it goes up to like $900 for the premium, where they'll just replace core components if need be. And I think there was a faster turnaround, but it's supposed to be about a 1-week turnaround. Discount, okay. Public safety organizations, again, I mean, we're bound to the pricing that we're supposed to sell, but contact us and we'll put together a quote to let you know what's going on. Do we offer a training program for the 300? We will have training here very, very soon. We just completed building our new training room here, so we can offer on-site training, and we'll also be doing webinar-based training here very, very soon. So we're looking forward to offering that. Battery management. Can we keep all the batteries in the charging case with one set charged and the others at storage level? Well, the battery station, the way it works, is pretty much all or nothing. There's one power switch. So if you hit that power, it's going to charge all of the batteries. So the only way to keep them at 50% is to not have them in there when you're charging that one set of batteries. So there's no way to set which pairs get charged when it's powered on. If they're in there, they get charged. Now, I've had the question several times: is can you transport the batteries in the charging station? And my short answer is yes. If you look at it and you feel it, the batteries have a little bit of wiggle room in there when everything is closed up. But all you need to do is cut like some egg crate foam, put it in the top so that when you close it, it's putting a tiny amount of pressure on the batteries, and then you'll never have a problem. So I think they should have done that from the beginning, and that's what I recommend everyone, is just put some light foam in the top. You don't want any massive pressure on it, but just a tiny bit of pressure just to keep the batteries from shifting around at all. And this thing is going to be golden for just transporting them, because it does have a retractable handle and it has wheels. So moving this thing around is not that bad. With 8 batteries in it, these batteries are heavy. They're much bigger than the TB50s and the TB55s from before. These are TB60s. So 8 of them does add up to some weight. And so the handle and the wheels is very handy, and transporting them in that, I think, just makes sense with a couple dollar hack to make sure that they're secured in there really well. All right, everybody. So this was short, sweet, and to the point. Thank you all for joining. Really appreciate all the questions and feedback that you guys have been giving me throughout this. Appreciate your time. Again, you can reach me at kgarrison, KGARRISON, at multicopterwarehouse.com, or my generic one, enterprise@multicopterwarehouse.com. Make sure you let me know what state you're in, and I'll route you to the appropriate salesperson. And I oversee that to make sure that the quotes are all going out properly and that you're getting everything that you would need. Awesome. You're fantastic. You're bitching. Okay. Yeah. Love you. Will you have my baby? All right. Great. Do you have a recording of this? Well, I'm not finished with it yet. As soon as I stop talking, then it will stop recording. I usually do my best to try and get the recordings of these up the same day, but often with their back-end processing and stuff, it works out usually to be first thing in the morning. So no later than sometime tomorrow, you will have a link sent to you with a recording of this. So yes, it will be sent out with that. Okay, I think that kind of wraps up all the questions. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it. Next week, we're doing a webinar on choosing the right type of drone for photogrammetry and mapping missions. So be sure and check that out. There'll be a link in the email that I send out about this one to remind everyone about that one. I think that wraps it up. Thanks, everybody, and I will talk to you guys later.